Okay, so now we're going to look at a sequence and going back and forth between explicit and recursive, or being able to write both of these for a sequence. So I always think it's easier to start out with a recursive sequence or a recursive formula for a sequence. And so the easiest way to do that is just to look for a pattern between the numbers. And so on this one, you can see that we're just adding 4 to each number. All I'm doing is adding 4 to the previous term to get the next one. And so for my recursive sequence, I'm going to say A1 is 3. I always have to start out with A1 for a recursive. And then AN, the formula, any term that I'm looking for, is always just the one before plus 4. And so that's my recursive sequence. The explicit sequence, I think, is easier if you've already written your recursive sequence. For the explicit sequence, most of the time what you're going to do is look at this number right here. And remember, an explicit is going from 1, 2, 3, 4. It's going from this first number to 3, 2 to 7, 3 to 11. So I've got to find something that I'm doing to 3 to get to 11. And that's going to be a lot easier if you've already written your recursive. So any term that I'm looking for, AN, if I take this number right here, 4, and multiply it by n, and remember n is just the number of the term in an explicit, then that will always be what's being multiplied by this number. And so then you just have to plug these numbers in to see what else needs to be done. So 1 times 4 is 4, minus 1 would give me 3. So I'm going to check and make sure that works for all the other terms. 2 times 4 would be 8, minus 1 would give me 7. 3 times 4 would be 12, minus 1 would give me 11. 4 times 4 would be 16, minus 1 would give me 15. So this one will work. And so then this is my recursive and my explicit. Alright, we'll start with recursive. And recursive on this one is not too bad. A1 is just negative 2. AN on this one, all I'm doing is subtracting 2 from the previous term. So I would say AN minus 1 minus 2. Now my explicit is going to be taking this number, negative 2. So I'm going to say AN is just negative 2 n. And remember, I'm trying to go from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. From those numbers to the number in the sequence. So 1 times negative 2 is negative 2. So there really isn't anything that needs to be done to that. 2 times negative 2 would give me negative 4. 3 times negative 2 would give me negative 6. So this one, I don't have to do anything else to once I put that negative 2 in front. And so then those are my recursive and explicit. Alright, recursive on this one. A1 is negative 1. What I'm doing each time is adding 2. And so I would say AN is going to equal AN minus 1 plus 2. My explicit, this is 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to take that 2 and put it in front of n. And you, just right quick, you have to have this AN in there in order for this to be a correct formula. If you just put AN minus 1 plus 2, that's not enough. You have to have AN equals AN minus 1 plus 2. Same here, you have to have AN. So if you leave that off, that's going to be points taken off. So let's plug these numbers in for n and see what needs to be done. 1 times 2 is 2. And then what would I have to do to get back down to negative 1? I would need to subtract 3. And so let's make sure that that works for the rest of them. So 2 times 2 is 4. Minus 3 would give me 1. 3 times 2 is 6, minus 3 would give me 3. And so it looks like these are going to work. Alright, I want you to pause the video and try the rest of them from here on out. So I would like for you to pause it and try this one. And then once you try it, you can check to make sure you got it right. I'm going to go ahead and do this one. So the recursive on this one, I have to say A1 equals negative 17. And then AN is just going to be, what am I doing between the terms? So it looks like I'm adding 5 between the terms. So I would say AN minus 1 plus 5. Alright, my explicit, I'm going to say AN equals 5n. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so sometimes it's hard to look at 1 times 5 is 5, and then what would I have to subtract to get down to 17? A lot of times I'll just jump to this end number who's got a positive number here. So 5 times 5 would be 25. And then what would I have to subtract to get to 3? Well, that would be 22. And so then I can check. 4 times 5 would be 20. And then minus 22 would give me negative 2. 3 times 5 would be 15. Minus 22 would give me negative 7. 2 times 5 would give me 10. Minus 22 would give me negative 12. And it would also work for 1. So this is my recursive and my explicit. And that is all for recursive and explicit. And you'll have an assignment on Haiku that's multiple choice that I want you to complete for this.